Welcome back to the Mental Dietitian Podcast. I'm your host, Ahren Lynch-potter, and we have a first time here today. We are doing the first in person episode of the Mental Dietitian. I have my friend Mark Henriksen, who is the podcast owner, CEO, OG of the Risen Fallen podcast. And I'm excited to have this conversation today. Dude, I feel like I've known you for years. I've only hung out with you 3 or 4 times, literally, which is kind of nuts when you think about it. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I was just saying, I like being in this seat where I just get to like hang out and just be present. But yeah, man, I like that. Like jujitsu or just like sport in general is like such one of those things. Like I guess jujitsu is it's such an intimate sport that like once you do it with like a guy a couple times, like it's like you've known them for so long. I feel like, and I guess it also comes down to if somebody's like willing to actually just like be realistic and chat and chill and yeah. So I appreciate that, man. I like that. I like that it's so easy to talk to you and just chill out. Like it doesn't feel like I have to perform. It feels like I can just chill.
That's so interesting. A big thing about men's work
Go
or being
closer.
a man is performance. And a lot of men think that they need to perform. And what I like about jujitsu is that you are basically getting as intimate as you possibly can in a non-sexual way with another human being when you're doing some kind of violent combat sport, whether or not it's kickboxing or jujitsu or Muay Thai or boxing, whatever it is. It's you are getting intimate, and violence is actually quite intimate. It is an intimate thing to do with somebody, and it skips all the bullshit. Like, if you roll with somebody and you're tapping each other and you're both submitting each other and like it's a great time, cool. Like you now have a bond with that person, and there's no bullshit. You don't have to be like, you don't have to pretend you're tough. Like you know,
Yeah.
like if you're a white belt and your buddy that you just met is a black belt, it's not like they're not better than you. They're going to show you some stuff, and if they try to like ragdoll you, then you probably don't want to hang out with that dude anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also like you kind of just want to like you're not going to win. So you might as well understand that and get over that idea of like I'm going to have to tap as often as he wants me to.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the idea is like maybe I'll just try and learn. Maybe I'll just try and like figure how can I stay safer for 5 more seconds, if that. Like that little yeah. I think like there's something like so like I think the intimacy comes from like the trust of like this person is gonna get in a position where they could put me to sleep or hurt me like
Or
permanent
break a limb.
yeah, like hurt me
Yep.
in a very permanent way. And I'm gonna trust that they'll let go when I tap.
Yeah, man. I talk about that all the time with jujitsu. It's like if you've got a fully locked on arm bar and you're putting it over your hip, you are waiting for that person to tap, but they're also trusting you not to like yank it because you could literally break their arm in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Or if you're doing no-gi and you have a heel hook on somebody, if you get the catch, like at On Guard where I train, what I love about Matt Kwan is he's taught people from the start to go for heel hooks,
Mm.
but it's like you get the catch and then you wait for the other person. Like you're not trying to like necessarily like crank it, but you'll also let them know, like you'll slowly put it on and be like, hey dude, like you have an opportunity to tap. And if for some reason somebody doesn't do that, then they're basically choosing to injure themselves.
Yeah, yeah. It's also like you have to have so much control for those things to be able to like if you're training with people you like and you like your teammates and such, like to catch and release. Because like if you're
Mm.
a bonehead like me and you rotate the wrong way, like even though someone didn't put it on me, like like they stop my knee from rotating and then I rotate the wrong way.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm an idiot.
I've
Like
seen people do that and they let it go. They're like, "Hey man, just so you know,
you
don't
fucked
don't
yourself up.
don't do
Yeah,
that because
yeah.
if you do that next time with somebody that's maybe not me, then you'll hurt yourself."
Yeah, I have a training partner that's like that, and I like he'll make eye contact with me and just be like, "Yeah, you know that was it." Like,
You know I got
I'm
you.
like, and I literally just thanks, bro. Thank you for letting go of that
Yeah.
because I would have hurt myself. Like,
Yeah, and like not a lot of men have an environment where they can do that with other men and you skip all the bullshit. most of the time when you go into a room with a bunch of men, they're trying to peacock, they're trying to establish who's the alpha male, or like it's so weird, man. They're testing each other all the time. That's why I like jiu-jitsu. It's just like the level playing field. It's like, okay, cool. You think you're tough? I've seen dudes that are juiced the fuck out come into jiu-jitsu gyms and they'll do maybe one session or two session and it shatters their ego and they don't like it and they never come back. And I think
Yeah.
it's good for human beings to realize, especially for men, that you're not as tough as you think you are.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that like there's definitely like gyms like that, like where they're kind of it is kind of like a young competitive gym where people are like kind of yeah like that. But there's like I find that most of the gyms, like my gym in particular, like it's almost the opposite. Guys that like sit there and like complain about like oh I really need to work on this, I really need to work on that, and you're like oh you mean the thing that you just tapped me with 80 times? Like you need to work on that. Like it's almost like bro, you're so much better than you're actually talking about. Like, what do you mean? Like, I feel like it's because it's one of those things where you only learn by being humbled. Like,
Mm.
by somebody dominating you is the
Yeah.
only way you're like, oh, that did not work. Like, that's
Hmm.
that everyone that's good at it has gone through that for so long that they're like conditioned to be like, I could do this better.
Yeah. How do you think it's helped you in the outside of the gym?
I think that that's actually like the best part about jujitsu is how much it's like impacted my life, like just with my mental health. I think that like it's one of those things where it's a very uplifting environment. It's somewhere where you know you can go there for an hour a day, and everybody there is supportive. They want you to be better. If you're in a good gym, like the people around you want you to improve. They want you to be better. They you know it's I've even said to Teddy like there's times where I felt like in my life where you know when you're at work like 10, 12, 14 hours a day, whatever it is, like having a place where you can go for an hour where people just want you to feel good and improve and like have fun is like one of the greatest blessings ever. Like it's like that's your refuge. That's like you know you can go somewhere and feel good. Like
Hmm.
and people care about you. And like it's weird to think about because you're like, hey, these people that are trying to break my arm or my knee or choke me actually are like the most supportive people in my life at some points. Like, you know, like it's like no matter what, we're all here. There it's like an hour of like forget about things and just like let's have fun. Like half the time you're just laughing. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. But there's a complete other side of it where it's you know, it's one of those things where it's one of the first things that I felt like in my life that I failed at and didn't want to quit.
Hmm.
It actually like made me like I need to get better at this. I want to get better at this. Like I have played multiple instruments in my life and like I could stick with it for a couple years and I would just lose interest or get bored or I'd find a song or a technique I couldn't do and I'd be pissed off and be like maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Like maybe and I'd quit everything.
Mm.
But jujitsu has been the one thing where like and it doesn't matter how often I fail or get tapped or get injured or anything. I feel like I need to find a way to make this work. Like I need to get better at this.
Yeah, it's so interesting. You're not the first person I heard say that, where they're like, yeah, for some reason, this thing that is incredibly frustrating that destroys and shatters my ego every time I do it, I keep coming back, and it's like, yeah, like why? It's almost like it's people that start jujitsu that really get into it. They're kind of like the recently saved Christian. They're like, bro, you gotta come.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you don't do jujitsu? It's like, man, have you read the Bible?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm all good, dude.
Like it
Loser.
solves all your
Yeah,
problems. You
like,
need Jesus, dude.
yeah,
You need jujitsu.
yeah,
Like,
buddy, you need to put on a gi. That would solve everything. I'm
absolutely.
going through a divorce,
Yes.
bro. Put on a gi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. Here's the thing: that it can help you whether or not you're having a. I've had a really good day where I just think I'm the man, and then you go in there and you realize you're not the man. And then I've had really shitty days when you go in there and you're like, man, like I was tired. I didn't want to come. I didn't want to be here today, but like I'm here, and you have some really good roles, and you're like, you know what? I'm more capable than I think I am. I can show up and do hard things when my feelings are saying to do the opposite. And it kind of levels you out. It gives you the stability to be able to handle problems in life inside the gym and outside the gym. Like, for example, if you're in like a triangle and you can feel it's tight, you can actually stop and think and be like, okay, if I go that way, it's going to get worse. If I go this way, it's going to get, and you have to make a decision fairly quickly. Well, how does that transfer over to life? It's like, well, if you're driving a car and all of a sudden you see something like an accident on a freeway, I think that jujitsu could help you make decisions like that. Like somebody starts like spinning out in front of you and crashes into another car, you could be like, okay, like within pretty short period of time, I think that you could probably make a quick decision versus not doing jujitsu. But I don't know. That I'm also biased. That might me being me contributing to thinking that jujitsu solves everything, but I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that what you're talking about is just the idea of like staying calm in like panicked
Hmm.
positions. Like
Exactly.
and I think that that translates well to like any person that deals with like anxiety or what people consider to be anxiety. Or I think that where we've become very averse to that feeling of like uncomfortability. Like, and I think that when people even say that like idea, they're like, "Oh, people are so soft nowadays. Everyone's looking to be comfortable." Like, I think like it's a weird concept to think about. But the only two times I can actually say like without a shadow of a doubt, this has like definitely helped me with that is like jujitsu and ice baths, because those are the two times where I legitimately feel like sometimes legitimately and sometimes illegitimately feel like I can't breathe,
Hmm.
and it's like that there's times even when I'm rolling where like I'll just get in a weird position and I'm stuck and I'm pinned and I'm like like crunched in a weird way and I'm like starting to panic, like and like you almost like want to tap, like you're like
Yeah.
what the fuck, and you're like what's happening to me, like I can feel my and you're like, oh, this is just like panic, like this is anxiety,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. It's fear.
all I have to do is just relax and think, and I know how to get out of this. Like
Yeah.
it's the same with an ice bath. Like it's like I get in it, and for some reason, my body is like, you can't breathe right now, and you panic. You're like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you get that, and then you're like, wait, I actually can. Like I
Yeah. Yeah.
actually could do this. Like
Pretty
there's,
cool.
maybe I can make it 10 more seconds. That's the thing that I think in jujitsu a lot is like maybe I can do it 10 more seconds. Maybe I
Mm.
can just get out of this. Like maybe if I can move their arm like this, and then if maybe I'm wrong, and then I tap, and then fuck it,
Reset.
you know.
Yep.
But that mentality of like maybe I can do this for 1 more second. Like maybe this isn't as real as it feels. Like
Hmm. Yeah. That's so valuable. Yeah. I wanted to switch gears here and talk a little bit about why you started your podcast. Obviously, you started in 2019. What's the reason you started that?
it's kind of a weird. I was always obsessed with YouTube, and when I discovered podcasts, I was obsessed with podcasts. I always wanted to do something like that, and I kind of organized like a volunteer service on the downtown east side for a bit, and then we started trying to get promotion for it to get more volunteers, and then so I was making like Instagram clips, and I wanted to make like interviews with the people that were down there that we were giving food to. We had to stop going down there, but I did make some cool videos, and I really liked it. And then I kind of translated that into just interviewing people on the beaches here in the summer, and then it became winter and fall, and people don't want to talk to you when it's rainy and snowy and gross outside. Like even if they're out and about, they're kind of in a rush, like they're kind of not wanting to chat, and so I had to think of a way to have these types of conversations. I felt like it was part of my purpose in life to have these conversations in a public place, and I think that that's the avenue I like. I'm obsessed with podcasts and YouTube and things like that. So it's the avenue I naturally gravitated towards.
Yeah, that's cool. What do you what is the thing about YouTube or podcasts or talking to people that you're obsessed with? Is it the fact that you can connect to people? Like what is it?
Well, it's multifaceted. Part of it is I have I've always been like a very extroverted person. I suck at listening. and so it's practice for me to actually listen in conversations. Is that it's kind of a
No, it makes
weird
sense.
answer, but like I have like even I just did it. Like I just was like, oh, I need to finish this. You know, like I have this idea. Like I suck at listening, so it helps me with that sometimes. Obviously, I'm still flawed, but yeah. And I just I do like the aspect of being able to kind of talk to new people and enjoy that. I think that there's so many benefits from it in regards to just like the networking and just being able to like say for example meet you.
Mm.
But I think the other side of podcasting when you asked the question, did you mean as a consumer or as a producer?
I more meant like, what does it give you, and like, what is the feeling that you said? I like, it's like almost it's part of my purpose. Like, what is it giving you? What? How would you describe that? Like, why do you need to do it? Because it's not a want. You like, yeah, I need to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So as a
As you.
yeah, as me, as somebody that makes one, I think that I feel called and compelled to because I know that in my own sufferings and in my own dark places in life, I just kind of felt like it was consistently like feeling like, am I broken? Like, how come I don't feel good? Like, I feel like I'm doing the right things and I still feel like there's these issues in my life. And anytime I've tried to speak about this, I felt alienated or weird and I didn't like that. And so like I just had this like inner debate in my head consistently for years that was just like, should I be speaking about like how I feel? Does anyone else even think about this? Like that's how I thought. Like I was like, oh, am I in my own head too much? And it is kind of like an ego. It's obviously like some sort of, but I just hated that feeling of like, am I the only one thinking like this? Is my brain fucked? Like, am I broken?
There's something
I
wrong
don't
with
know if
me.
I should swear on your show, but
Well, go for it, dude.
but I just yeah, I felt fucked. I didn't think that. I remember the very first thing that I posted that was similar to this was I worked in sales. I was at a stressful time in my life. I was not doing great mentally, but I did. I felt good when I performed well at work. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was one of those people that I still am, that will bury myself in work if I don't feel good because the accomplishment will suffice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember driving home one day and I just, one of those days where I don't know if you ever do this, where it's like the radio's off and you're just sitting in silence in traffic and you're just like debating your life and
Yeah, well,
what
yeah.
the point is. And you're like, holy shit. Like one of those, yeah, I know if the radio's off when I'm driving, that's bad news already. But I had one of those days where I was like in tears, basically, just like kind of like dripping as I'm driving home. Like, fuck, why do I do this? And why is my
Mm-hmm.
life like this? And I just, even when you know it's temporary and you're like, I'm going to get over this, it still doesn't feel like it.
No.
And so I made a clip and posted it on Facebook that was basically just like, this is how I'm feeling. This is what just happened driving home. And I just want you to know, like, if you're out there and you hear this or you're listening to this, like, I feel like this today. So it's okay. We're going to make it another day and we'll see how tomorrow is. And I remember, like, just people messaging me being like, I never would have thought you would feel like that, or because I am an extroverted, like I like making people laugh and smile, and I guess just hearing the impact of people being like, wow, I didn't know other people felt like that, and I'm like, dude, that's how I felt, and I was like, holy shit, that made me feel, like even you've brought this up in our last conversation, you brought it up today as well, like it made me feel seen, like it made me feel heard, like I was like, wait, we're all feeling like this masquerade, but we're just pretending we don't? Like, what the
Mm-hmm.
fuck? Why are we doing this? Like, what's this charade for?
I'm not a drop in the ocean on the entire ocean in a drop.
Yeah, yeah. Like, we all feel this way and we're all pretending we don't? For what? Like, why are we doing this?
Because we are disconnected. Because I think it's because our culture is sick.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But that's why that would be like why I feel compelled to do this because I can and I like I said, I naturally like to talk. I don't mind that some people are risk averse to saying their opinions. I don't feel that. I feel open, and I think that that's like in a way almost a gift.
It is, yeah.
And
It is.
so I think that when you have something like that, you should use it to make good things and make the world better.
Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah, you have a gift to be able to communicate and to be able to share, especially as a man, to share how you feel. There's so many men out there that feel alone. Like I coach a lot. I coach men mostly. Yeah, like coaching women is very different in a way, because a lot of them have already they're not emotionally shut off.
Hmm.
They can be like they can tell you how they feel. Some guys just don't even know what it is at
Yeah.
all. They literally are just like, "So how you feeling today?" "Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only thought about killing myself 3 times today, so I'm feeling pretty good." I'm like, "Okay, dude, like that's not good."
At least you can identify that.
Exactly. But what they think, though, what I've noticed is a lot of men is they intellectualize their emotions. So what that means is they think their emotions are thoughts.
Hmm.
So like, they'll go over their day and be like, "Yep, well, I trained this morning. I did this. I ate this meal, so I'm feeling pretty good."
Hmm.
That's not how you feel.
Hmm.
How you feel is more of a somatic experience within your body. Like, oh, I've got a really tight chest. It's like, okay, well, that's probably some anxiety. Or I feel like I wanna pick up a drink or I wanna smoke a joint or something. It's like, what are you running from?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's this part of that. There's this incredible system I'm learning about called internal family systems. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's amazing. So basically, this guy called David Schwartz, it's like a psychotherapy kind of technique or perspective or theory that we are made up of different parts. So these parts is like an internal family that you have. So you have the inner critic that is like, "Hey Mark, get
Okay.
the fuck up." And then you have the other one that's like, "Just let him sleep." And they argue with each other.
Hmm.
And then you have the one that, yeah, a lot of people have the internal critic. A lot of the ones have maybe the ones that's very shame based that just says that you can't do anything in your life, and another one is more of a cheerleader. And you have all these different parts of people. And when that gets really amplified and when those parts don't talk to each other at all, that's like a multiple personality disorder where the part is so strong it just basically takes over the person's communication. And any person can know this, that you described it on the way home. You described it like you have a voice that is like very critical.
Hmm.
And then you have another voice that's like, "Hey man, like just fucking leave them alone."
Hmm.
And they have a fight with each other. What's very interesting, and I've done this for years now, is you can actually develop a relationship with them, especially if one is causing you suffering all the time. And a lot of people want that voice to go away. But in fact, from what this guy discovered, is that each one of those voices, even the ones that tell people to murder people, even ones that, like this guy worked with pedophiles. He worked with pedophiles and their parts, like the part of them that did that. And it's wild. And I was reading about it. I was like, that would be hard, hard work. But he said, without fail, every single one, if I could speak to the part of them that actually did that action, that basically 99% of the time is what happened. That happened to them as a child.
Hmm.
That happened to them as a child.
Hmm.
And what they did is they basically borrowed the person's energy that did it to them, and
Hmm.
it created this trauma within them so that when they did it to somebody else, they were trying to feel powerful because all the power was taken away from them when they were a child.
Hmm.
It's like, holy fuck. So this guy did a lot of work around that, and I'm reading this right now, and it's fascinating because we all have these parts of ourselves that are very critical, or it might be our father's voice, or it might be like all of that. But is a reason I bring this up is there any part of you right now that you avoid when it says things to you? That you just like, it's a part of you that is maybe in the shadows, and when it comes up, you want to push it away.
Oh, that's a heavy question, man.
It
I like
is.
that. I think is there a part of me that
Is there a voice that is, it could be the hypercritical voice, which is you use it and you tie into it sometimes, but then when you try to rest and slow down, it doesn't leave you alone. That's me. I've had that for years. But other people have voices that are very, like some people have voices that are like, hey, you shouldn't be here. Like
oh
you,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like you shouldn't be here. You don't deserve love. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I've dealt with that like definitely. I've had to do a lot of work on it, and it was only in the last like few months that I've started to dive more into like why is it what where is the root of this from? And I still haven't nailed down the root of why, but I'm getting closer. And I know that a lot of my inner dialogue, the inner critic, is revolves around like abandonment issues.
okay.
And so it's kind of like you need to be, like you said, kind of performative, but also like increase your not value, but maybe like how utilized you could be for other people, like your usefulness.
Because
So then they
then you
won't
feel
leave
useful,
you. So
so
that
they won't leave you.
so you won't be alone.
Yeah.
And I think that that's for me at least. It's probably why as well. Like the strongest sentiment I try and drive home is like you're not alone, because I
Mm.
think that that's part of what I. It's almost like reminding myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one, man. Um,
Sorry to cut you off, but I'll say like it's not only just like even romantic, like it's like with like, will my friends like me tomorrow?
mm-hmm.
You know, like do the people I work with, do they like to be with me? Do my employees like working with me? Does do my parents, are they proud of me, or are they just kind of like ashamed, and like I just have all these. That's the inner dialogue I deal with. Is
Mm.
like, are these people gonna be here tomorrow? Do they actually love you and care about you?
What if they really saw me?
Yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
if they knew?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. That's exactly it.
It's
Like,
like,
what
well,
if,
what if they knew what?
yeah, what demons I have, or what I've done, or how I think, or what I think about them when they do silly things or things that piss me. Like, there's all
Mm-hmm.
these things, like, and guilt and shame are tied around it. But I think that a lot of it, I think that a lot of guilt and shame that we feel is tied to those things, and that's why I say like the overall issue. I think personally, like I do deal with those like well, I've dealt with in the past with like that, you shouldn't be here anymore. The world would be better, or this person would be better off without you. But I think that for me, it always stems from that abandonment issue. And I don't know why. I'm not sure. I'm sure, many faceted reasons why, but I know that for me, that's kind of the overlying.
Have you ever asked it what it wants you to know?
No, I haven't. I haven't actually.
It's an invite because I've had my own experiences with that where I had this. I basically went through in December. I went through basically, I would call it a psychotic break.
Hmm.
Basically, when Teddy was taking pictures,
Right.
it was wild.
Wow.
Where I had no idea who I was at all.
Mm.
It was about a week long experience where this voice, it was shame. I basically did an apprenticeship in shame, and it was wild. I know most of my other emotions, and how I know my emotions is I treat them like they are a part. Like the way that this guy describes it in internal family systems is it's like getting to know a person.
Mm.
So when you're sad, you're like, "Oh, hello, sadness. How you doing? Like, what do you want me to know today? What's going on?" Because you feel sad, or it's like you start getting anxious. You're like, "Okay, something is going on that
Hmm.
my mind is not picking up." So I'll take time and I'll like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I'll talk to them like that. I'll talk to them like a parent would talk to a kid that is like imagine an anxious kid getting home from school, and the parent's like, "Hey, man, Like, what's going on? And the kid maybe needs some time. Oh, it's all good. It's like, hey, like, no, like, let's take some time and spend some time together. I'd never done that with shame.
Mm-hmm.
And that shame is the very interesting emotion where it doesn't want you to look at it. It is an emotional cancer if it goes out of control. Healthy shame is fine, but there's something called toxic shame, which is somebody's identity, which is kind of what you described. It's like, what if they really knew who I was? Would they still love me?
Mm-hmm.
Love is the antidote to shame, but what stops people from really being their authentic self and really being open and exposing themselves to, like, hey, here I am, is if you do that and somebody rejects you, the pain that that would feel like would be so painful that that it's not even worth the risk at
Mm-hmm.
all.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth it,
Mm-hmm.
and that keeps people stuck. So, dude, like, I basically didn't sleep for a week. I couldn't be around people where people would talk too loud, and I'd have like a fight or flight response. Where I was like, it was wild. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know who I was. It was very hard on my relationship with Lexi. We went through a very difficult time together because I will say that your partner is not your therapist.
Yeah.
They're not your therapist. They have their own shit going on. And if you're going through something, I would highly recommend going outside of the container of your relationship to get help. And I did. And I had this vision on like the fourth day of sleeping 2 to 4 hours a day. It was wild. And I had this vision of me as a young man. I was 10 years old. And I was building these like walls of paper mache. And I was
Did
like,
it actually happen, or you just had
no,
this?
no, it was like a psychedelic vision, not
Okay.
being on psychedelics. I
Yeah,
was
like
like,
not a memory. It was
what was happening before that time is I was smoking a lot of marijuana for the first time in my life because in July, the previous July, I drank ayahuasca for the first time. That was a very big experience where it basically it took my identity of who I was away, replaced it with something else, and then said that's who you are, and I believed it. And then on the other side of this experience, it's like, hey, I was just joking. Why are you so small that I can take everything away from you that you think you are, and you just accepted it?
mm-hmm.
It was very confronting, where it's like, hey, you've done that your entire life. You've let other men, especially, tell you who you are,
Mm-hmm.
versus you knowing who you are. You know who you are. You know what you can bring to the table. You know who you are. So why are you afraid of being who you are?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, fuck. So what happens is I got blown open by this, and what happened is that shame was actually my emotional home. And what I mean by that, it was like my homeostasis. I
Mm-hmm.
was so used to how it showed up for me is that I would let people subtly disrespect me.
Mm-hmm.
I would not, if somebody said something that I didn't agree with, that I experienced anger, I wouldn't bring it up with them. I'd be like, oh, they don't really mean it. I would shrink. I would make myself smaller for years. So if you
Mm-hmm.
make yourself so small, eventually you're like, other people tell you who you are, and you're like, oh, well, that guy seems he's sure of who he is, so I guess I'll believe him.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for years. And then when I met ayahuasca for the first time, say I met her, and I say her because it literally is like that. It's like an entity. It's like she's powerful. But what happened is she blasted me open, and then I started smoking a lot of marijuana. I started doing things that were shameful because I was used to feeling that. Like
Mm-hmm.
had all this freedom all of a sudden. It's like, imagine having the realization in like a 2 day period that you can do anything you want and there's nothing that stops you,
Mm-hmm.
and actually feeling it. There's nothing that's holding you back from anything. There's nothing that's holding you back from making Risen Fall on the biggest podcast in the world, and you got shown how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's really fucking scary
Yeah.
because it's like, oh,
So why am I not doing it?
because
Because I'm
I
being a bitch. No,
no
no.
no because there's a part of you that is scared of being seen,
Yes. Yeah.
terrified of it. Every human being has this. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, what if they saw me? It's like, what if they did?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to feel that. It's like, why don't you want to feel that? Because you're avoiding that within yourself because you're not looking at parts of yourself.
Yeah.
And I got shown all these parts of myself. So basically, heavy marijuana use for like 6 months, and I cold turkeyed in December because I was doing it too much, and that caused the hallucinations. So on the
Mm.
fourth day, I had this hallucination of me building this paper mache. It was like a maze, right? It was like a maze, and it built all these walls. And I was like watching it. I was like, I don't even know. I was in and out of consciousness. It was like 2 a.m. in the morning, trying to sleep. And it's like somebody grabbed a remote control and pressed fast forward. And it built this giant maze that I lived in, and these paper mache walls turned into concrete, and they turned into steel.
Wow.
And I was like living in this prison that I'd created myself, and I
Hmm.
was happy living there. And I'd created this prison that I'd lived in myself. And then what happened is it's like it started to disintegrate. It started to all erode and fall away, and like the wind started to blow it away. It's kind of like the what happens to Voldemort at the end of Harry Potter, where he just starts disintegrating into nothing. And I was eventually standing in this giant field with no maze, and it was beautiful. And I was terrified because I would longed for the walls of the prison that I'd lived in for 20 years.
Wow.
And that is Plato's cave. If you've ever heard that, Plato,
No, I'm not
Plato's
familiar.
cave was made by Plato. A lot of people know who Plato is. He's 3,000 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, yeah. I'm familiar with him.
Here's this analogy for human conditioning where imagine you and I are sitting in a cave and we have chained up, and you've probably seen it.
Yeah, okay, I
Yeah, so
have
you're
heard that.
chained up and there's a fire behind us and there's shadows, and that we look at this cave wall with all these shadows, and there's maybe it's like the entrance is behind us, right? So the outside world is behind us, and there's
Hmm.
animals that walk past, and then it creates a shadow. We're like, oh, look at that! Like, and we create a story of what we think is happening
The world
as
is.
the world is based on what the shadows. And one day, somebody comes up and unlocks your chains, and you go outside, and you're like, it's really fucking bright. You're like, what the? And you find it hard to adjust, and it's weird, and you don't know what the hell's going on. And you look how beautiful the world is, and you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Hmm.
Why does everybody I know do this? This is the Matrix.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the great psychological phenomenon of people say you got to get out of the Matrix. The Matrix is not. It's a thing in your own mind. And some people long for the Matrix. They long for, and I experienced that myself. It's like, oh, I don't actually want to achieve all my dreams. I actually want to stay right where I am. I'm good.
Hmm.
And then like the blue pill or red pill. Then the story goes into he sees how wonderful the world is. He's like, oh my God, like everybody needs to experience this. The
Hmm.
recently saved Christian, the guy that does jujitsu all the time for his mental health.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need to go back in there and save the people that are chained up in the cave.
Hmm.
So he goes back inside the cave, and he goes in. It's like really dark, and he can't see anything. And he goes up to he's like, oh, these guys are like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're like, oh, you got to go outside. They're like, what going outside? Look at you. You can't even see inside the cave anymore. Like, what
Yeah.
happened to you? What's wrong with you? Like, no, I promise. I promise. It's like it's way better out there. Like, no, we're good.
Right.
That's why if you really want to go after your dreams and goals, the greatest fear is not the fear of anything else. It's from that movie. The greatest fear that you can experience is the fear of massive success, of your own light. Because what if you had to leave everybody? What if they didn't understand you anymore? What if you had to leave the people because they didn't relate with you anymore?
Hmm.
You have to let go to be whole. So what are you like? What are you letting? What are you not letting go of? It's a wildly deep perspective.
Hmm.
The reason I bring it up with you and the reason I shared it is that that part of you that was like that shame part of you, the way that you can you love it?
Yeah.
Because for years I said no. Like, could I love myself
Yeah,
if for
yeah.
some reason I was a woman? Could I love myself if I was gay? Could I love myself if all of a sudden I got hit by a car and I can't do jujitsu anymore and I'm in a wheelchair?
Hmm.
Could I actually genuinely love myself if all the things I identify as were taken away from me or
Hmm.
changed?
Yeah, yeah.
And for me, the answers were no.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, I struggle with this a lot actually, and I still don't have an answer for it. But I was like kind of even struggling with the idea of what identity truly is, because there's so many things like I would consider, like if you ask me like who I am, it's like, well, like I'm a carpenter by trade. I do home renovations. I'm a I'm a boyfriend. I'm a brother. I'm a son. You know, every single one of those things could proverbially taken away. Like eventually you won't be a son. Your parents are gonna be gone. Eventually hopefully I outlive everyone I love, or I mean, hopefully I don't. Hopefully, hopefully. Hopefully, I don't have to miss them, maybe, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know. I think that there's this kind of there's two things kind of in my brain right now that I'm trying to figure out how to say, but I think the first one is more along the lines of what you were talking about, the idea of like loving that who I am and trying to figure out that identity. That's how I got on that thought pattern. Because like all those things could be taken away. Like you said, I could get hit by a car tomorrow. I could cut my hand off at work and then just not be, I'm
Well, you're the
one
one.
arm carpenter
You're a
at that.
one-arm guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Things have changed.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that I have this the way I was going to try and explain it is like at one point in my life I managed a gym, right? And there's obviously staff members that you have that you like, and there's staff members that you have that maybe their values don't align, or you guys just don't get along, or maybe you do get along, but when it comes to work you butt heads, like whatever it is. And I always kind of had this mentality of like, you're kind of in or you're in the way. Like this is the way we're going, and this is like the expectations, and you're either in or you're in the way. And I also had this, I had a manager that used to tell us, and I thought this way, and I still sometimes do, where it's like you're either coaching up or you're coaching out. Like if someone's not like in alignment with the mission and they're not showing promise of like getting better and improving, and they don't want to improve, then they're gonna like you need to start like kind of coaching them out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I did those things with my negative emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like if you're in the way, you're being like suffocated. I will smother you until you cannot, you like you're in the way of me completing this task right now because I need to, I'm feeling so upset that I'm nauseous. I'm just gonna like, you know, smoke a joint and sit down and force myself to do it. Like whatever like you said, like you go to different ways to silence those voices, and I think that
The
I
exiled parts of you.
yes,
And
and it's
how's it going? How do they
well, I'll tell you, there's people that and emotions are kind of like this as well. There's times where it's like, all right, I'm not wanted here. I'll go. I'll bow out. I'll quit and go find somewhere else to work. Like I kind of get the message. And then there's the people that'll just kind of linger, and they're like, I'm not going to quit, but you're obviously not going to fire me. So we're just sitting in this like limbo phase of like, like if you're like a manager and you have a staff member like this, or maybe you have a manager like this, you are a staff member, and you have this like uncomfortable relationship with somebody at work, and you're like trying to ignore each other, and then any conversation is just like passive aggressive, and it's just kind of like, oh, well, maybe if you did this, then you'd have a better time, like fucking, and it's just like this like source of pain and like anxiety and stress for everybody, because like they're trying to avoid you, you're trying to avoid them, but neither of you will pull the plug on it. And it's just like I think there's emotions that are that stubborn as well. Like it's like you can try and ignore them, you can try and I'm just gonna take care of all these good feelings over here and do control what I can control. You hear that a lot, but then it's kind of like you're probably gonna have to address this. You're probably going to have to do either a coaching moment or just cut the ties
Here's the thing: you can't cut the ties with yourself.
with
You
a
can
part
cut
of
the tie.
yourself. Yeah.
And here's the thing about people: if you have somebody in your life that's like that, here's what's crazy, right? Here's a crazy perspective. If you really sit with it and really allow it to
Have you had
sink
that
in.
situation before? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Exactly, I know exactly
Okay,
what you're
sorry.
talking about, and I'm going to speak on it because
Sorry.
no, no, it's fine. I've had situations where I've met somebody or there's somebody in my life, and all of a sudden there's some kind of, I call it an itchy, scratchy spot where I'm like, I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
or I just like met somebody for the first time and I'm just like, I don't like that motherfucker. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know why, because it's not logical. And do you know what? Every person that you ever meet, if you ever have a child, for example, every emotion you ever feel is happening within you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't feel somebody else's emotions. Anytime somebody says to you, I know how you feel. No, you don't. You can imagine how I feel
Mm-hmm.
because you can't feel what I feel because you're not inside my body.
Mm-hmm.
I will never know what it's like to be Mark. Not a
Mm-hmm.
clue.
Mm-hmm.
Now, saying that as, so for example, I heard somebody say this where the love that people have for a child, what a child does for somebody when they do have children is it reveals the love that was already inside of them.
Mm.
But they just needed this externalization in the form of a human being that has connected them through their DNA to reveal the feeling that was already existing within them.
Mm.
Because if it didn't exist within them, they wouldn't feel it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you have an issue with somebody and you're avoiding this interaction, you're actually avoiding a feeling within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're avoiding
Oh.
the feeling that that person that you are creating within your own body that you create when you come across that person. And every time you avoid it, you're avoiding a part of yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know for myself, like I'm thinking about one specific situation, and I know for myself, I think that it was this feeling of like you're not really who you are claiming to be. Like it was kind of, I thought that I was a good leader, and I thought that I was something that somebody should follow, and I wasn't. And I thought that, because I think obviously there's a lot of bad eggs out there, and I don't think that this person was one of them. I think that I didn't know how to motivate them, or I didn't know how to make them see things the way that, or I thought that they had to see things the way that you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And it felt like this is a hole in my game. Like
So you made it about you.
yeah,
And
and
it's nothing to do with them. It's actually about you,
exactly. Like
which
it's
is like
like
confronting. It's like this
this person
person,
is evidence that I'm not who I am,
yeah,
who
this
I'm claiming to
person is
be.
revealing to me as a mirror that I can't, I'm not who I think I am. But then you
Exactly.
project it onto them and be like, you're not who you think you are.
Yeah, you're a bad follower.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, no, you're not worth following.
Yeah. It's
Like,
like, oh shit.
yeah, yeah. It sucks. That's a shitty feeling.
That's the truth though. It's like Winston Churchill says, some men come across the truth. Sorry, some men stumble across the truth in their life, and most of them pick themselves off and brush themselves off and pretend like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, and I think that it can be really like you can convince yourself to believe that too. I think that it was for me, it was one of my first leadership roles, like a legitimate like paid to be a leader. And I flubbed it obviously, but I think that it was one of those things where it's easy to fall into like, oh, maybe I'm just not a leader. But it's also like, yeah, that was your first crack at it, man.
Yeah,
Like
give
it's
yourself a break, and that's
y-
part of that. That's one of those voices you have to talk to. Maybe you're not supposed to be a leader. Like, wait a second, what you just said is like, hey man, it's your first crack at it.
yeah.
That
It's like
you just
yet.
proved my point. There's parts of you to like, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. A lot of people see themselves as having one mind. I see that I have a family inside my head.
Yeah.
I don't have one part of me. That's why sometimes you're like, part of me feels this way.
Mm-hmm.
Say if you have an issue with your girlfriend or a friend or whatever, like, yeah, part of me feels like you don't love me.
Yeah.
And then another part of you is like, well, I know she fucking loves me. Like, what the fuck am I saying?
Yeah.
And you don't want to share it with that person because you don't want for them to think that that's what you think and that's what you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because we live in a society that says mind, body, soul. You got one mind versus 50 to 60, 70, 80, 100 parts of your mind. And to
Mm-hmm.
even say that that's a possibility and that you're this internal cacophony or like a group of individuals in a way that's inside your head that kind of sometimes fight with each other and talk shit to each other and don't get along,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, oh, you're insane. But every single person listening to this, if you're really honest with yourself, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about and you know it's true. And that's why it's sometimes confronting to hear.
Yeah.
Because there's not one particular part of you that's there is actually, I call it the soul or the self. There's the part of you that's like, no, it's like the center of everything. It's like, it's immovable. it's your soul, whatever you want to describe it as. It's the reason why you need to do the podcast. It's the reason
Mhm.
why you have this gift to communicate. And everything that tries to pull you off that path is almost, I see it as there's parts of me that try to pull me off that part, and they're actually trying to love me to see how bad I actually say I want it.
Mm. Wow. That's cool.
They're trying to love me.
Yeah, like it's a resistance to make you stronger.
Exactly. And like I've had conversations where when I went through that really hard time and like I was living in it, I realized I'd lived in a prison for many, many years where I just didn't feel like it was safe to be me.
Mhm.
So what I did is I would be somebody that Mark thought I think Mark would like.
Mhm.
So I'll be that guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he would like that. And do you know what would happen? Is it would create a split within me of like, hey, like, you weren't really yourself then, but these people are responding and they're laughing and they think you're funny and they think you're cool, and that feels good. So you have a choice. Do you be yourself and really let people see who you are? Or do you continue being the false self with what you think people like?
Yeah. I think I've struggled with that before, that not just the situation itself, but that thought process of like, why am I like this? Like I'm somebody, and don't you think it's kind of also almost a beautiful thing that you could say, you have people in your life that extract different parts of you?
Yeah,
Like it's kind of a good thing, I think. I'm like
it's
that,
amazing.
like a social chameleon, like where you're kind of like, I'm able to slow down and chill and talk about like intellectual kind of ideas of why I think the way I think or what, my feelings. And then there's other friends that I sit around and talk about pee pee poo poo stuff. And it's
Exactly.
just like, I'm stupid. And, I'm sure every guy will not admit it to their friends, but with a girl, like they talk like fucking babies sometimes.
Oh,
And they
yeah,
do,
dude.
and then you're like, oh, am I a 5-year-old again?
Yeah.
Like it's like it's not a bad thing that different people pull different or extract different. Like I think that if you can't get in touch with, sometimes I am somber, sometimes I'm quiet and I need a little bit of darkness and I
Yep.
need to, and sometimes, I want to go train and I want to go balls to the wall. And sometimes I want to just kind of like goof around and have fun and laugh. And I
Where
don't
the
think,
suffering can occur, though, is if one of those, if one of those gets so strong, those parts of you that get so strong that doesn't want the other parts to come out,
yeah.
and it's that then you like can't actually be you.
Hmm. Yeah. I think a lot of it as well. I know I can only speak from personal experience. I think a lot of it is not, and you've kind of spoken about this. You were talking about this with anxiety and tight chests. I think it's easier for me. I've always struggled, like when say like Teddy comes out to me and she's like, "How you feeling?" I have a tough time even identifying that and putting it into words. And one thing that's helped me recently is I start with the physical.
Good.
Like the other day, like I was like, I came home from work, having a rough day, stressed out, didn't get a good sleep. Like all the stars were aligned to not feel good. Like it was like bad sleep, bad nutrition that day, like et cetera, et cetera. And I get home from work and I'm like, I just need to go take a nap. And so she's like, something's up. Like, like he doesn't really go to the bed and close the door in the middle of the afternoon very often. And so she like comes in, she's like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, honestly, like I kind of feel nauseous and like I
Mm-hmm.
kind of feel like my stomach hurts a lot and I feel like I would need to throw up, but I don't have anything in me because I haven't eaten today because I haven't done this. And it almost like spiraled. And I looked at her, I'm like, this feels like 20% of depression. Like it feels like this could be the turning point where like if I live like this for another few weeks, I'll be very depressed.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is like an appetizer.
Yeah.
And
Little
it's
taste test.
I don't like the taste of this shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Send it back to the kitchen. Tell the chef, let's re up on this. I don't like this.
Yeah, not a
Right?
fan.
But
Like I
but
feel sick.
yeah, but it started with just like the physical, like I need to like, and it ended up where I'm like, 5 minutes later, I'm kind of in tears and just
Good.
like,
Good
yeah.
for you.
And it gets to the point where it's like,
And the nausea went away, didn't it?
yeah. And I went up and I went to jujitsu that day and I felt
Yeah,
better.
dude.
But it was like, am somebody that gets very anxious and confused, and it sometimes can even make me mad that I can't put into words how I mentally feel.
That's okay. You need to take the time for the emotional storm to settle down so you can get clarity. I'm the same way. Sometimes I'm like, "Hey, make a decision right now." I'm like, I don't, I give me a few hours
Yeah.
and the clarity will come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like what you just described is exactly what I work on with my clients is that your feelings are not thoughts. Your
Mm-hmm.
feeling, the nauseous feeling, for a lot of people, that's sadness.
Yeah.
Anxiety, like a lot of, I did a practice with a customer the other day where I'm like, oh yeah, some people feel fear here, some people feel sadness here. They have this kind of
Oh yeah.
feeling right here, and it actually, if you really want to dive into it, it would like look into chakras. It's fucking mind blowing, dude. It
Mm-hmm.
is sore back, lack of safety.
Mm.
Like the lower part of your back, it means you don't feel safe. If you look at like a chakra system,
Hmm.
it's very interesting, and it's like you want to hate it. You want to hate the chakra system because it sounds stupid. It sounds
It's too
silly,
woo woo for me.
too woo woo. And then you
But
like start looking into it and you start feeling in your own body. And you're like, okay, I got this sickening feeling here. And then you look at what it might mean emotionally and spiritually. You're like, what the
it's the
fuck, man?
nine-tailed demon.
It's fucking, what the fuck?
All the Naruto fans right there.
Yeah. So I did an exercise with this guy where I basically, what we did is I just told him to breathe into it. I said, imagine your lungs, imagine you got like a balloon and you're pushing into this part of your stomach and you're kind of just pushing it and you're kind of just opening it. And he's like, oh, it's moved to my chest. And I was like, okay, keep breathing. Now breathe in with your chest and push into your chest. And he's like, now it's in my throat. I'm finding it hard to swallow. I'm like, cool. Imagine that you're breathing into that. And then all of a sudden he's like, I see his face go like this. And he's like, I was like, it's all good, man. Keep going, keep breathing. And he like tears starting pouring out of his eyes. He's like, what is going on? And I was like, you
Mm.
just released some stored emotions in your nervous system.
Mm.
That's what trauma is in your body. It's not a concept. It's literally gets stored and causes pain in our bodies.
Mm.
Some people feel nauseous
Yeah.
all the time. And they just think that, oh, it's like, it's this. I have a hunch, and this is a very interesting hunch that
I believe you. I
his,
don't know what it is, but
well, because you just described the exact thing with you. I said, did you feel better after you had a cry with a
yeah.
nausea? It's like, yeah, I did. It's like because it was emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what some people do? Is they try and eat it away, smoke it away, drink it away, and it maybe goes away for a bit.
I ignore it, hoping if it feels, like myself, if it feels unloved, it will change its environment. That's what.
What if you're the one that has to love it?
Yeah, it's me that's unloved.
Yeah, yeah. There's parts of you that you don't love.
Yeah.
And the longer you don't look at them, the more suffering and the louder they get. That's what I think depression is. A lot of the clients I work with are 50, 60, super successful. One of them built a bank. One of them built a fucking bank. And
In Canada?
no, in America.
Oh,
He's like, yeah, the biggest deal I ever did was
how do you do that? I don't
uh,
think you're allowed. I didn't think.
no, he started a bank
I'm being
from
dumb.
scratch. It was amazing. And he's like, yeah, the biggest deal I ever did was $3 billion. And I celebrated by buying a Ferrari.
Fuck yeah.
Another one of the guys I've worked with is a very successful real estate agent. Another one was a general manager of a very successful sports team, very high accomplishing people.
Wow.
And a lot of them, all of them, have gone through severe mental health issues because of just the amount of pressure that takes. One of them said to me, he's like, man, like, all I've ever wanted to hear my entire life was I love you and and I'm proud of you. And we basically got it to the point where he hadn't heard it from his dad.
Oh yeah.
And his entire career, he'd been looking for that in his wife, he's like, in everybody. And I remember I said it to him and I genuinely meant it because he was talking about this stuff and he was sharing his feelings and he just broke down, man. It was one of the most beautiful moments I've ever had with a man. He's double my age. Very successful. He's like, dude, when you drive up to the mansion in the G-Wagon and you feel like nobody loves you and everybody hates you, he's like, it doesn't fucking matter.
Mm-hmm.
He said that to me and I was like, God damn, man. Like, and he's going to make such an impact in this world with who he is. And the way that he can communicate and the work that he's doing, and I genuinely love I love that man. I'm proud of him. And I
Yeah.
don't work with him anymore. I then did a few sessions with him, but where we got was very interesting. And when he identified that, he's like, I've been looking for that my entire life. Hyper successful, done amazing things, achieved like just amazing things. And I got to be very careful with my words because like I don't want to reveal who this person is. But like when I got him as a client, I was like, whoa, like this guy knows people. Like another different one of my clients knows Donald Trump.
Mm.
Like knows him. He's like, I know Donald. I was like, whoa.
That's nuts.
Yeah, and like you're talking to these people, and these people have these different perspectives, and they have so much to teach, and they're the ones that are making impact in the world. Like, honest, they own companies with thousands of employees, and I respect these men so much because they're willing to look at themselves, and that
Mm.
shit's not fucking easy.
Yeah.
Especially like one of them was like, man, like I have everything that society says would make you happy, so why am I depressed?
Yeah.
Like everything.
Yeah.
House, the cars, the all the material possible things, millions and millions of dollars in the bank. So what's the fuck is the problem? Like what like and most people never get there. They think, oh, if I could just get there, then this feeling would go away. And imagine getting there and the feeling's amplified. It's
Mm-hmm.
even worse. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh shit. That's why there's a lot of people who are in Hollywoods that are famous that have all this money. They end up fucking killing themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because you keep telling yourself, oh, when I do this or when I get this, I'll feel good, and then you don't, and you're like, well, everyone told me that I'd feel good if
I
I
call
got.
it when then syndrome.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When I get there, then I'll allow myself to be happy.
But not even just that, but it's also like reinforced publicly. Like everyone's told me that if I have 1 million followers, if I have $1 million, if I have, a hot wife, if I have this, I have that, whatever it is, then I'll be happy. I'm told that if I have a nice vehicle, I'm going to be happy. And then you get in the vehicle, and you're like, why don't I feel it? And you start to think like, I'm broken.
Yeah.
Everyone else is functioning normal and I'm broken because it's so intuitive. Like, get the toy, feel happy.
Yep.
But then I don't feel happy. And it's like, maybe
That's
I'm not going
maybe
to feel happy. Maybe I'm not
broken.
supposed to be happy. Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe that's not who I'm supposed to be. Maybe I'm broken, and then that's
The
I
martyr mindset of like, I'm supposed to suffer.
yeah, that's another thing, man. Like I used to be super into David Goggins, and I still respect him as a human being, but there's a part of me that's like, hey, man, like when does it end?
Oh, yeah. He's very clearly a broken person.
Yeah.
He's like,
But he's said some amazing things. He's forged himself. He's forged himself into this person who has helped millions and millions of people, but I think he still inherently thinks he's fucked up.
well, I think when I say he's a broken person, I say that as like that's his superpower. He is the
Yeah.
ultimate, like the ultimate someone to look up to. If you have a fucked up life and you don't think you can overcome the struggle you're going through, he is the human embodiment of that overcoming that, and it's
If you asked him though, do you love yourself? And I don't think he would answer yes.
yeah, I don't know. I think that
I
I
think he,
agree with you. I think that I don't think I'll say this. Do you think that I don't think he's happier than the average person? I don't think he's, I don't
no.
think that he's enjoying his life.
He says he is. He says he gets happiness from the suffering, but like if your body's
I
screaming
think
at you and your knees are fucked all the time, you can't run anymore. You're almost 50 years old. Your body's trying to tell you something.
I think that though. I think that if you were to take somebody from his circumstances and just like actually break down the things that he's gone through,
Oh man,
I think that he is
it's a walking miracle.
like he's exceeded the best case scenario you could imagine from that. And I think that that's the reason I like I I look up to him a lot.
Same.
I love him. I've read his books.
Same.
I've listened to copious podcasts, but I get where you're coming from of like you actually can just enjoy life and not beat the fuck out of your legs. Like, you want to be able to pick up a grandchild at 65. Like,
Yeah.
there's there's also this idea of like, you can't always run from those demons. You can't. It's not right to just beat the shit out of yourself until you can't think about how bad you're hurting. I don't know. I can't dive into his mind,
We
but
don't know.
I get where you're coming from, and I get the risk of it, of that mindset. But there's just something so romantic about that. Like, you cannot, like the book title itself, like, can't hurt me. Like, there's something so beautiful and romantic. He is, I think, a role model in that, like, I can't be him. There's no one that can be like that.
No.
He's almost like a superhero or a mythical creature.
Yeah.
But there's like this, like, almost like, can I channel his energy for 15 minutes?
Yeah. Can I
Can I get it?
use the principles
Yeah.
he talks about?
Yeah.
There's the principles,
Yeah.
like he has this really cool thing called the cookie jar.
Yes.
That's fucking cool, man. Where it's like I've found whenever I'm about to do hard things, it's like you get amnesia of everything you've ever gone through.
Yeah.
So go into the cookie jar and be like, you overcome that. You
Yeah.
overcome that. You did that. You did that fucking hard thing. You moved from the other side of the world, Ahren, by yourself to a new continent. Didn't know a single fucking human being.
Creepy. That's
Like
scary.
you did that.
It's uncharted waters.
And now you think you can't do this? Get the fuck out of here, dude. That's like this like super like that part of you that's like knows you can do anything. Like, hey motherfucker, you've gone through this, you've gone through that. Like who do you think you are to think that you can't do this when you've done all this in the past?
Mm-hmm.
So let's do it. Do it scared. Do it
Yeah.
anyway.
One of the things I think about often when I feel like I'm like kind of at the point where I want to give up, or I want to, um, I feel exhausted, I feel kind of run down, or I just feel like I lost confidence. I think all the time, like, it's crazy too because I'm even removed from it. Like, I think about, my grandpa came here from another country, and I think like my grandpa didn't come here from another country and then work like a kind of like a lower end job, like just like kind of go through this like single fatherhood of raising kids for his grandson to then just like shit the bed.
Mm.
Like, I think of that often. I don't know why. Well, I do, but I think of that. It's kind of like stems from the same thing that you were just saying about like that gentleman that wants to make his father proud, and it's kind of the same thing, like that ancestral pressure of like. But do you think that sometimes, like, because you're the one that did it, you're like, hey, I came here, I did this thing, like, I fucking have to make the most of it now. Like, do you think that often? Is
There's
that a
two
motivating
ways.
factor for you?
It's I agree with what you're saying. It I don't see that there's good or bad in a way, and that's why a lot of people go wrong with their emotions in general. They label some emotions good and they label some emotions bad. So if you label some emotions bad, you don't want to feel it, do you?
No, I
Nobody
don't.
wants to feel bad.
No.
Therefore, you exile and do not accept and look at the parts of yourself that are causing your own suffering. So when it comes to that, there's no good or bad ways of looking at that. But if your entire life you are looking for example, if your entire life you're looking for, I love you, I'm proud of you from your dad, from somebody that's not you, outside of you, and then they end up passing away and you never hear it, now what?
Yeah.
So when it comes, I love the concept. I think it's called ancestral geometry. I think that's what it's called. Basically, it goes like this, and it's fucking mind blowing if you really think about it. So I have two parents. You have two parents. Those two people have two parents. So that's four people. Your grandparents. There's four grandparents you have. Then those four people have parents. That's your great grandparents. There's eight of them. 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512,
How high can you do this?
1,024. Right? So that is 10 generations back. 1,024 people had to live at around the same time, right? 350, 400 years ago, which is about 10 generations. That have to live at around the same time, not die during childbirth, Think about how harsh life was
Mm.
350 to 400 years ago. That's 1700s, 1600s.
Yeah, yeah.
Average life expectancy is like 40, right? Not get shot in the head in battles, not pass out, like not die of childbirth, like die of the Black Plague, not die of hunger, famine, moving across the New World, not die in raids from other tribes, or if you go back further, everything had to fucking align for them to have the child that had 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 the child, and is now sitting on this couch.
Yeah.
Like if you really think about that, I close my eyes and imagine like in a movie where there's like a man on a battlefield and for some reason the bullet whistled past his head and it didn't hit him. I can say this because my great grandfather, Albert Potter, World War One, had a box on his head when they landed on Gallipoli, right? I don't know if you've heard of Gallipoli. It was the single greatest military loss in Australia in World War One. I think it was like 100,000 people and were done a day or something. It was fucking
Holy
insane.
shit.
Basically, they landed on the wrong beach. The whole beach was just cliffs instead of actually being able to get up onto the beach. And they landed on the beach, and then the machine guns were basically mowing down people for about 18 hours straight.
Mm.
Just duk, duk,
Holy
duk, 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 and
shit.
they're all boats. And my great grandfather, Albert Potter, had a box on his head and put a camera on it and tried to not get shot in the head, and a bullet went through the box. Right?
Dude.
If I don't know if he had kids at the time before he went to war, or if he had kids when he got back. But that right there is the perfect example, and I know that for a fact because the pictures were in our family, and they were some of the only pictures ever taken of Gallipoli.
Wow.
Right? So that's imagine if that bullet hit him in the head. I'm not here.
Yeah.
So that's fucking amazing. Like, and then you times that by 10 generations and 1,024 people that have each moments like that. It's hard to comprehend. It's like holy shit. Like your last name's Henriksen, which means you're probably Scandinavian Viking kind of
Yeah, my grandpa
Danish.
was Danish.
Cool. Like the shit that 4, 5, 600, 1,000 years ago that the Danes were doing, raiding England, like raiding Norway, Denmark, it's crazy.
Oh
It's
yeah.
fucking nuts.
Even just literally like same thing. Like my grandpa's got photo albums that we look through, uh, and like there's like literal like a couple pages. I think it might be next door. I can't show you it, but um, I'll show you on my phone after. I have pictures of the pictures of like literal, just like straight up Nazi invasion, and like Denmark is such a small country. It's such a the population's small, the land mass is small. It's an island, and so it's kind of just like they came and it was like a one day we're waltzing through parading and then like full on like occupation within like I think it took them like 2 days, not
Yeah.
even. And it's like that's imagine that like it just
Can't even comprehend.
and then just to be like, oh shit, we like I have two choices, I stay or I go, like it's that's so even like yeah, there's like battles like yeah, the Viking battles thousands of years ago, but there's also just like a generation and a half ago where there were literal Nazis walking through the streets. Like people use that word loosely now, but like we're talking like card carrying,
Actual
swastika
Nazis.
wearing,
Yeah.
like proud to call themselves like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
are in the National Socialist Party of Germany.
Not somebody that
And you
disagrees
are
with your
now,
opinion.
yeah, and you are now too. Like
Yeah.
that's like straight up, like, and like that's fucking insane.
Yeah, I
Like,
know. And that's the perspective. That's one way of looking at it where you're like, okay, I'm literally a cosmic fucking miracle
yeah,
sitting here talking to you right now.
yeah,
Like the likelihood of all 1,000 of those people, and if you go back far enough, the Earth's population gets smaller,
mm-hmm.
but then the number of that equation gets bigger. So how can it ever make sense? Right? Imagine if you go back, it's like, oh, you double 1,000 10, 15 times, you got like 40 billion. There wasn't that many people, right?
Yeah, because the
Here's what
generations don't work the same
no,
way as like
as the entire world's population. Well, if you do the math on it, we're all related to each other 2 times over.
mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt.
Like you're my family.
Yeah,
Like
we all are. Yeah.
literally.
Yeah, we all are. It's so crazy.
It's crazy when you think about it. And
What's
that's
the weird question off color? What's the where does it become weird if we're all family when you start to pick partners and be romantic with them?
well, obviously we're so far
Because
removed
that's
now.
subjective, I
It's
guess.
it's like we're the human family.
Yeah.
Like obviously we're so far
Sorry to
removed from. Like I know that Teddy's actually your sister. You don't tell many
We're
people that.
cousins.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, man.
Yeah.
Secrets out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we're
We
all.
call it a family reunion every time we have dinner. Anyways.
Yeah, dude. Or there's one way, the other way of looking at that equation of like, oh, what am I doing with my life? Is you could just shame the fuck out of yourself and make yourself feel like shit.
Oh, I do that.
Yeah, but that doesn't help, man. Like that, like rather than you could be like, what the fuck am I doing with life? You're like, wait a second, I'm a cosmic miracle. The fact that I can even sit here and do a fucking podcast when 400 years ago we're not doing fucking podcasts. The fact that we can talk about our feelings. I had a conversation with my dad when I was in Australia, and we figured out that he was the first man in his entire bloodline that didn't hit his kids.
Yeah. I would be. Yeah, my dad's probably the exact same. I don't know, actually. I don't know much about my parents' childhoods, so maybe that's something.
But it was very normal, like very normal. Back when my dad was a kid growing up, all the parents hit their kids,
Yeah.
and that's just like, but like, flogged them. Like not all the parents obviously flogged them, and I'm not saying all the parents hit their kids. Maybe some didn't.
I agree with that. That sentiment of that dance between discipline and
Gratitude, dude.
gratitude, but also compassion.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the times, I know for myself, I struggle a lot having patience and compassion for people when they're doing something that I detest about my past.
Oh wow. That's so cool you said that. I have a lack of patience and compassion for people where they are doing something that I detest about my past.
Yeah, I have a lot of like
it's
you
a
said, it's tied to guilt and shame, but I feel very angry about some of the decisions I've made in the past when I think about, I'm not really in the position I want to be in my relationship or my financial life or with my health and my physique or with this or with that or where I'm at in my career or wish I started jujitsu earlier. Like there's all these different, and I have a tough time forgiving myself, and I beat myself up a lot in my own head. I think you should have known better, even though it's like that was the lesson for you to know better. Like there's this like
It's very shame-based language. Anytime you say should or shouldn't, do you ever feel good?
no sir, no sir.
Here's something that everything you're saying, listen to this and really listen to this. This is fucking mind-blowing, and it might give you some freedom. The past is the past, and it couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't.
Right. I think you literally said that to me the last time we spoke because it's a reoccurring theme in my life.
It couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't. Period.
Right. I know.
And then I know, but it's like
Yeah.
no buts.
I
The
know.
past is the past. It couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't.
Yeah. You don't feel that anger at yourself, at your younger self, when you're looking at your, like, maybe 18, 20, 21, 22.
No, I love that, dude,
And you're
man.
like, fuck you, man. You should have put like $5,000 maybe just in the bank for yourself. Like,
Yeah, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And I wouldn't be here without that dude.
yes. Dude,
Yes, but I know.
I
and
get you.
It's not a logical thing.
I know because of course I've heard these things in the past, and I try and remind myself these things. If you were to read my journal, it says things like that.
Yeah, but it's a logical gaslighting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
As in
kind
it
of
doesn't
like
get rid of the feeling that you feel.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I still feel this like you had people telling you saw evidence that other people did these great things or these wise things, but you were just impulsive and you wanted the fun and the pleasure now, and now you're paying the tab for it. Like it's kind of like you're like, dude, what the fuck? Like imagine it feels like sometimes, and I think that this is a lot of the time where people are like they kind of give up and they start to feel that like depression where you're like I wish I could just start over. I wish this could end and I could just start over because I
Yeah.
think it feels like sometimes you get to a party at a restaurant and you sit down at the table and everyone's had the fun and then you have to pick up the tab. That's how it feels because it's like the fun wasn't even that fun. I kind of just fucked myself. And that's like I don't know. For me, it draws like an anger. Like I like if I want to just like shake like Bart Simpson, my past self.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
I do
Do
know
you
what you
feel like
mean.
that?
I have felt like that in the past, and if you have to approach it in a different way, I can't say what you have to do or what you need to do. I'm just saying that the more you feel that way, the stronger that feeling will get. You have to approach it in a
Mm,
different way rather than being like, you have to parent yourself.
mm.
Would you do that to a child?
It depends on whose child.
Your
Maybe
child.
no, no.
So why do you do it to yourself?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because that's a child. You're
mhm.
talking about you as a child.
Yeah,
You're a man now. But when you were a child,
barely by appearance only.
yeah,
No, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. You can't. One of the things I was told a while back is you can't be upset at yourself for not knowing what you didn't know while you were learning it.
that's all just logical shit though. You need to feel the feelings of it and you need to feel it. Because here's the thing. Here's the problem I have with self-growth and reading books and podcasts and everything.
Hmm.
Here's the fucking problem I have with it. Is that you now know why you're so fucked up
Hmm.
in every possible single fucking detail.
Yeah, I might. I don't think I know everything, but
Yeah. Oh well. Can you try? You should go read some more books about it.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah. You
yeah,
should go listen to some more podcasts to amplify that feeling of why you are not somebody you can love,
yeah, yeah.
or you simultaneously learn to love and accept you and learn to love you. Because what personal growth was for me for years was feeding this hungry ghost that if I just knew more information, then I would love myself.
Hmm. You know, I
And
think
it made
you,
it worse.
I think you, I think you nailed it when you kind of said. I'm trying to think again about. I think that one of the issues I see in the world of mental health and the podcasts and this realm is this. It's kind of something that we discussed earlier, but it's kind of coming full circle here because I think a lot of the time we tell each other these things like, you shouldn't feel this because of that. You shouldn't feel this. And it's like, as much as you want to, like you said, rationally gaslight or logically gaslight and be like, hey, look, like there's a better way to do this. It's like, okay, I get what you're saying. I understand there's a better way to think about this. There's probably a more healthy way to think about this. And I shouldn't feel this way. But at the end of the day, I do. And I think that you nailed it on the head when it's like, you should probably address that because, like, continuing to tell yourself, like, oh, you shouldn't feel angry about, like, decisions you made in the past. It's like, I don't know if you know, like, I'm sure you've dealt with stubborn thoughts or people before, but it's like, it doesn't matter. I feel angry right now.
I see it as like
You
as a
can't ignore that.
I
Like,
see it as like a credit card where you every time you say that to yourself. Imagine you got like a maxed out credit card, like a
mm-hmm,
$20,000 maxed out credit card.
mm-hmm,
Every time you say something like that to yourself, you're adding like $100 to it.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
But it's a shame account. You're making deposits in an account of suffering.
And you're like, can I fucking lock this card? Why is there still transactions going through?
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, it's still going through. Oh, the interest per month gets worse and worse and worse, and the interest per month ends up being depression and anxiety.
Yeah. Or causing those things in people you love. Like
Yeah,
that's the other thing. You can fucking hurt people around you
hurt
if you.
people hurt people.
Yeah.
That's why you have to look. I almost imagine Harry Potter, like you have to go into Gringotts, into the dark depths of that bank, and you have to go to the deepest, darkest vault they have, and you have to open it up and face what's inside.
I'm lost. I've never. You made it. That's a second Harry Potter reference.
You've never seen it?
I've never seen Harry Potter.
Well, here's a perspective. There's a guy called Joseph Campbell who wrote The Hero's Journey, which is what most movies are based on. And he
Yes,
has a
sir.
saying. It says, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek."
Right. Yeah.
So everything you want is on the other side of the thing you're avoiding the most. The feelings that you want of self-love and all this peace you want is on the other side of you facing that part of yourself.
Yeah.
And then you have to ask yourself, and I've asked myself deep in psychedelics, it's like, do you really want that? And I was like, oh, I'm actually addicted to feeling like fucking shit. And part of
Mm-hmm.
me actually really likes it.
Mm-hmm. It's edgy. It's fun.
It's
It's
edgy. It's
angsty.
cool.
Yeah, it's angsty. I get what you mean, dude. It's like, yeah, I get what you mean. It's this kind of a cycle. And like I said, there's a myriad of reasons why, but it's weird how we do that to ourselves. And I'm just trying to
It's
think
actually not
exactly.
weird at all. It's completely normal. It's a normal response to repressing an emotion. It's not weird at all.
Yeah.
I've dealt with people that call themselves addicts, and one of them was like, "Yeah, man, I felt out of control my entire life," and I was like, and he's just like, "I just get angry at people." I was like, "Of course you get angry at people because you felt out of control your entire life. You finally are trying to feel some control,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody does something that's out of alignment with what they say. That's not safe.
Mm-hmm.
Of course you're gonna get fucking angry at them because you spent 30 years out of control.
Yeah.
What you're experiencing is completely normal based on what you told me." And they're like, "Oh, it is?" I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's the
Some
same. Sorry.
You go.
I was just gonna say it's the same thing that kind of fuels some people's OCD, or like kind of like it's like this obsessive, like I've never had this. And I was like this for a while actually when I first started kind of my self-development journey, is like I never had structure. Like I said, I have a lot of resentment and anger to myself for just kind of being impulsive and just wanting to have fun and live it up and party and for me, I flip flopped and I did the knee jerk reaction of just like, okay, now only everything will be structured, to the point where like I was like, yeah, planning everything,
Which
and
gets rid of all the fun.
right. It also, yeah, it's yes, it's also like to try and control everything in a world where you can't is like you're setting yourself up for failure.
It's very
And
fear based.
yeah, and I think I resonate a lot with what you said about the hero's journey, and I think like the idea of like the treasure being in the cave that you don't want to go in, and I think that for me, I've personally struggled with that kind of. I don't know if you've dealt with this, but you kind of start to compromise with yourself to not go in the cave. You're like, I don't know if I really need that thing. Like maybe I'd actually be happier if I got like a different thing from like an easier cave to go in. Maybe
Oh man.
maybe if I could have a candle, or I
That's
don't know.
in the that's
Like,
the that is the avoidance.
maybe I
That's
don't need that thing to be happy. Maybe I'll just be happy with what's around me and just like chill and not go in the cave. Like
yeah, dude. Scary shit. That just hit me. That just hit me because it's true. We all do it to ourselves. We
yeah,
all do it to ourselves. And yeah, it's just like, do you really want the truth or do you just want a better dream?
yeah, yeah. Or do you just want to hear what you want to hear? Yeah,
Yeah.
like a better dream, or just like a less painful nightmare. You're like, I'll settle for that.
Yeah, exactly. I'll settle for that. And it's just like that's not how it works, pal.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that is the thing. That is the fear. And I've done that so many times and I know I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. It's like, hey, like what you really want is on the other side of the thing that you're most scared of. If it's being alone, like for like when I went through that ayahuasca experience, it showed me being alone. It showed me losing Lexi. It showed me like I was like, oh, that's really scary. But I realized I could do it if for some reason that ever happened. Like if I lost everything, I'd actually be okay because I've got me.
dude, that's crazy that you just said that, because so part of what helped me with my abandonment, or identify my abandonment issues. This will be the last random tangent
Yep,
that I
yep.
fly down, but was a mushroom trip where
Mm,
I came home. I lived at home. I lived with my parents, and I'm like my parents are pretty like open about a lot of things, like especially as I became an adult. Anyways, I did a bunch of mushrooms. If I had to estimate, it'd probably be like 5 grams, six
That's
grams.
a decent amount.
Yeah, it blew me to another planet.
Oh yeah.
And I came home, and no one was home. My parents were out and everything like that. I envisioned in this empty house where I'm like, hello, hello. I envisioned everyone was gone. And I
Mm.
was kind of like in the house. It was like a spaceship, like interstellar, like flying through. And I felt so alone and isolated. And so one of the things that I thought was like, I'm kind of clammy and hot. It was the summer. It was like, maybe I'll just go in the shower and rinse off. Like maybe then I can feel better. Like trying to get this control back of like, I want to feel okay. Maybe
Avoiding that feeling.
I'm
That
so
yeah.
I'm so like alone and scared, and I think I fucked myself up. Like I think I'm always gonna feel like this. Like maybe I did permanent damage, and I was just like, it got so weird when I'm in the shower, and I feel so isolated to the point where I thought like parts of my body. I'll try not to get too graphic. Were like not part of me, but they were like on my body.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was like a weird disconnected. Like I felt so alone. I didn't even feel like I was with myself. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
so creepy, but I resonate with that feeling that you just expressed of like I went down this hole of just feeling so isolated and so like what if these people weren't around? And you said you were like, "Oh, I realized I could do it without. Like I realized I could survive. Like if, if everyone I knew were gone, I could survive." I had like not gotten to that point during that trip. And so I kind of always I guess maybe it's unfinished business. Like it's a book I
Mm-hmm.
didn't pick back up.
Yeah. And that's what I work when I coach with people. I work through everything we're talking about. Like even on this podcast, there's so many things you said that I could have touched on, but it's maybe just not the time or place that maybe we could touch on just together sometime.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
even I'm down for I'm
Yeah.
down for anything, man.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing. Yeah, you might say that, but then sometimes stuff comes up you don't even know is there, and you're not down at
Yeah,
all.
yeah. Well, the nice thing is I trust you enough that I'm like, yeah, if this takes a weird turn, we'd be like, yeah, we don't have to use that.
No, no.
Yeah, but
No, man, and yeah, I really respect you like going and being vulnerable and sharing what you feel because there's people going to listen to this that listen to you, listen to me, and go listen to his podcast, guys. It's fucking great. Like you're always consistent. And I haven't been consistent with this lately. I've had lots of fucking shit I'm working on, and it just feels good to have these conversations, and I always get something out of it. Yeah, dude, it's powerful when you get a mirror back based on what somebody's saying and you said a few things. I'm like, whoa. Yeah, like even like you pick a easier cave to go into. Like I'm like, yeah, dude, I do that all the time. And do you know what's really scary is it's really scary allowing somebody for me, it's really scary for allowing to somebody to actually love all of you and to show like in my relationship with Lexi, I've been so scared for so many years of letting her really, really like see me.
hmm
It was, and I still feel like there's parts of me that I need to open more to her and share more with her, but I'm fucking scared. It's like I'm scared to like really open up and see how much love can you feel
hmm
for yourself, for other people. It's scary though.
yeah,
It's like holy shit, like it's because it's on the other side of vulnerability and being vulnerable by default risks you being hurt because you're opening up and showing parts of you, the ugly parts, the
hmm
parts you don't think are lovable. And if somebody's like, "Hey, I love all of you. I love like," I remember Lexi said to me, and it broke me. It fucking broke me, dude. She was like, "I would love if you were addicted to meth. I would love you if you had nothing." And I just started crying so hard because I was like, it shattered that the high value man perspective that you hear on Instagram all the time. You're like, bitches only love you if you got fucking money.
hmm
And she said that to me, and she's like, she, I would want her to leave me if I was addicted to meth. And here's why: because I wouldn't be me.
right.
You can still love somebody, and she could leave,
hmm
but she said she would still love me, and and she said, I
And you
would love you.
should. Sorry, I should. I just want to. Certain times you should leave people.
Yeah,
But
yeah, you should leave people if like they are not willing to help themselves. You are hurting yourself by staying there.
yeah, but sorry to interrupt. But
Yeah, and she said that to me, and it just shattered my world. And I was like, what concept do I have about love where I think that it's what I do, not who I am? I
Yeah.
thought love was based on what I did.
Yeah.
Like if I make this amount of money, if we go on these trips, if I have this nice place, if I drive this nice car, we go out for nice dinner, we have these cats and we do it like that's what makes me lovable.
Yeah.
And she just fucking shattered it. I was like, it just rocked my world. And I started crying. I think about all the times that I've done things that have hurt her and hurt our relationship because I was trying to get what I thought was love by performing.
Right. It's crazy, man.
It's fucking nuts.
I obviously make a lot of misogynistic jokes and I rag on my girlfriend, she rags on me. We have that relationship. But one of the things I say, one of the most powerful things that like is wielded by women, one of the most powerful weapons they have as a force for good in this world is they I think men can access this as well, but I think maybe it takes becoming a father. I think that men have this ability to write people off and be like, fuck that person. They piss me off enough that if they come around me, it's not like I'm in a like physical altercation, but I just have this disdain for them and I don't want good things for them. I don't want, like I wouldn't be upset if they got in an accident or something. Like you have these weird thoughts and I think that maybe this just comes from people really just like
I think
what
you
I'm
just
trying to
said,
say is
let me just say something. I think what you just said is linked to the anger you have for the younger parts of yourself.
Probably, but I'll just finish this
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
first. I think that one of the powerful things that women are able to do and are able to display is unconditional love. And I say that because Teddy has seen me, and I haven't always I've been a scumbag. She's seen me be a scumbag,
Same.
and like whatever you do to fuck up and be a douche, it's like to have somebody, even if you're like pushing them away, whether you know you are or not, to be like, hey, I love you and I want the best for you. If you need that space or distance, I'll give it to you. But I just want you to know I want to be around you. And like, I think you're better than this. And like that feeling is like, I know for myself, there's a lot of times where I'm in my relationship and I get into that victim mentality of like, fuck this. I don't deserve this. I could get, and then you start to think
Maybe
like,
it's better somewhere else. Maybe somebody will love me differently
Or
than
ma-
this person and
or-
not expose this in me.
or maybe it's just safer if I don't let someone in.
Yeah.
Maybe if I'm just by myself, then no one can hurt me.
Yeah.
And so I think I get down those thoughts and then I think like, this person was loving you when you didn't even love yourself. Like that's a fucking valuable force to have in your life. Like that's something you need.
Yeah.
And so
dude.
you shouldn't write it off because you're pissed off right now. And that was one of the biggest realizations for me is like, oh, I actually like kind of need like it's almost like this is the force I need in my life to help me overcome what I was talking about. Like it's like you have this fear inside of like everyone is going to find out you're a fraud or think that you're a scumbag or a piece of shit. They're going to, they might feel the same anger that you feel towards yourself. And that was like the first example of me, other than like love with my parents, of like someone that's like, you don't actually have to give a shit about me. You were fine before you met me and you'd be fine if you were but you're choosing actively like to love me unconditionally. And it's like, that's a superpower. I don't think that I have access to that as much. I
That's your job to create that for yourself so you can share it with her.
yeah. But I think that sometimes if you don't even know that's possible, I
Yeah.
didn't even think that was,
Neither did
I'm so
I.
quick to write someone off.
Yeah, and she's so loving and then like like it's fucking beautiful, dude. Like, and when you really feel it, you're like, what the fuck, man? Like,
Yeah, you're like, I would have left me twice by now.
dude.
Like, I don't know. Like,
I
that's the
said
way
this
I
to
think.
Lexi. Lexi and I have been together for 9 years, and we both agree with this. It's like, I'm glad you were insecure enough to not leave me 3, 4 years in. It sounds wild
Yeah.
because if I met Lexi as who she is and the woman she is right now when I was 22, 23, she wouldn't go near me, dude.
Yeah,
It's not a fucking chance.
no doubt.
Because you can grow and change in a relationship. I'm not the same man that she met, the boy that she met. And she's not the same girl. She's a woman now. And like, it's just fucking powerful that we're not the same people, but she's loved me the entire time, and I had a lot of things around love. Like I thought that commitment was I remember somebody asking me this at one of these like psychedelic weekends I went to. They're like, what would you say commitment is? I'm like, I didn't even hesitate. I was like a jail cell.
Wow.
And they were like, why is that? It was to do with my mum and dad's marriage. I had a belief that you can love somebody as much as you want, but they could come home one day and just say, I don't want to be with you anymore.
Yeah.
That's not true. Here's why it's not true is because there's fucking signs for years and years and years and years. And if you're willing to do the work and look at it and not let these wounds fester and grow in your life and in your relationship, if you're willing to face the truth of like, hey, I'm not getting what I need here, I'm going to tell the person. Maybe we can work on it. And if for some reason I continue not getting what I need, then maybe I have to choose to go. Or some people don't do that. Some people just don't fucking say it for years because they're scared of maybe losing it. That oh, this cave is like not as bad.
Yeah,
Like they're
yeah.
okay.
Or yeah, whatever it is. Like
But
the
then you
risk to reward.
exactly. But if you say and you're vulnerable with that person and they love you anyway, they're like, I'm so sorry I did that. I didn't know I was doing that. But then
Mhm.
it's like, oh shit. And you now deepen and elevate this connection even more than you had before because you were willing to be vulnerable and you were willing to potentially lose that relationship altogether because you said what you wanted.
Mhm.
And then that deepens the love and it allows you to feel a love that you didn't even fucking know could exist. Like when she shattered me and she's like, I would love you if you had nothing. I was like, oh, that's weird because I wouldn't love me if I had fucking nothing.
Mhm.
So how could
Yeah.
you love me if I had nothing? And it was this psychological, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm
You're like,
like,
I have things right now I don't love me. Like,
exactly. And it's just like, well, and that's the journey. That's the invitation from life when those things happen of like, okay, if this person can love me, I need to love me because it's like when I went through that horrible week, I wasn't going to say horrible, when I went through that transformational week in December, I had like this parts of me. It's like, can you love all of her? Can you love the pain that she's gone through? Can you love all the things that annoy you about her? Can you love all of her?
mhm.
And I was like, oh, I can't. And it's like, you know why? Because you can't give something to somebody else that you're not doing for yourself. So
Yeah.
you need to learn to love all those parts of you. Because if you don't learn that, you'll constantly search for it in other people. You constantly go from relationship to look for this feeling that you think is within somebody else, but it's actually within you.
Yeah, yeah.
And the more you can love those parts of you, when you see your partner going through something, but you're like, oh, I love me when I was feeling anxious. So they're feeling anxious right now. So I can love them, even though they're scared and maybe they're not being friendly or they're be snapping or whatever. They're whatever.
Yeah, yeah. It comes back to what I said earlier as well. Like I detest in other people what I hate about my past. Like when I see someone being impulsive, I'm like, think about your future. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, and that's you've got to do some work around
And
that.
then they're like, "Oh, but I want to do it now because I kind of deserve this." And whether they do or they don't, I think like, dude, you're fucking telling yourself that you're just rationalizing yourself. The only reason I know that is because I've done that and it was fucking dumb, and I'm still paying for it. So you don't want to do this.
Hmm.
Like that's it, and it makes me like I said, like I lose compassion. Like I'm like, what the fuck? Are you an idiot? Because that's the way I think about
And that's
myself.
the way you talk about
Yes,
yourself. And here's the
yes.
thing: if you had a friend that spoke to you like that all the time, how long would you be friends with them?
Oh, dude, yeah, I would
Tell them
fucking
you'd fight them.
yeah,
So therefore, you have an inner war that you're fighting with yourself
yeah,
that needs to be approached not with war but with love,
yeah,
and that's hard.
yeah.
How can I love the part of myself that I don't think deserves love?
How do I hug someone that's trying to punch me in the fucking face?
Exactly. That's the work.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah, that's the fucking hard part. Even that I think was the most emotion I felt this entire conversation. Just saying that is how do I hug someone that's trying to hit me? Because that's how it feels. Like you're like I'm as strong as you because you're me. So if we keep fighting, we'll probably fight forever. You know, like that's the inner dialogue. Is
That
like,
is the reality.
yeah, yeah.
So why don't we stop
So I
fighting?
have to find a way to hug you while you're trying to fight me.
I have to find a way to love you, even though you say horrible things to me.
I got to get underhooks and just
Just love.
Just hug.
Yeah.
Just hug.
Until they melt and crumble and they cry in you.
Right.
I've had moments like that where I've hugged younger parts of myself and they're thrashing around. I'm like, it's all good, buddy. I got you.
Yeah.
And then I just start, it melts and I start fucking crying and I feel so free afterwards and I have all this fucking lightness in my chest I didn't even know was there.
Yeah, yeah. I've experienced that, and I don't know why, when I hear those things, I feel like this weird resistance of like,
There it is. Because there it is. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Mhm.
You feel this resistance because you're like, oh, like what would that be like? But then the battle continues.
Yeah. And I think there's this fear of like, will that help? Why bother trying?
Mm-hmm.
Would that even help? Would it, I don't know. It's something that I think about.
Well, let's do an exercise. How old was this version of you? I want you to close your eyes for a second. How
Okay.
old is the version of you that is fucking annoyed? Like the one that you just like, you fucked up your life, you're impulsive. How old is he? What age were you? What age of Mark was that?
age, I'd say it started probably at around 12 is when I start to think about anger towards myself. And I think that's probably when it started. Yeah. 12.
Holy, oh, I was, for some reason I was thinking maybe early 20s, but that's early.
I know there I can pinpoint I can pinpoint a lot of different things I've talked about in I think on my podcast, but also just with counselors. But one of the main things I can explain is I didn't there was like kind of like in my high school when I was graduating elementary school, there's like this like kind of like an incentivized program of like they push you a bit more, but then you get to do cool as shit.
Yep.
And I applied for that, and my older sister had gotten into it, my friends had gotten into it, but I didn't get into it because I didn't have the grades. I didn't give a fuck. I was just a 12-year-old that wanted to have fun and make jokes and be a class clown. And they were like, "You don't really push the envelope, buddy. Like you're just
You're not enough.
well, not that you're not enough, but you're not even trying to be enough. Like you don't even, like you're not trying in school. You're just around because you just want to be the social. And so for me, that was the first time where I remember thinking, I'm not going to succeed if I try, so why bother? And that makes me mad today because I know that through daily behaviors you can compound and improve your life. And it makes me irritated and angry that I didn't know that, understand that principle of like, oh, you're not where you want to be, but you could get there if you try.
Yeah.
And I self-sabotaged because I was scared and hurt, and I didn't want to be hurt again. I didn't want to be told I wasn't good enough again.
No, because it's painful.
Yeah. And so for me, that's the first time I can think about like anger or resentment because of a decision I made. Like it's like the first time I want to Bart Simpson myself, like you fucking mother, like
Yep.
I feel that anger of
Yep.
like,
And I want you to close your eyes and I want you to picture him. You know what he looks like. You've probably seen pictures of him, right? You probably know what he looks like. What does he look like? What is he doing right now?
smiling, dude.
He's smiling. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
What's he smiling? And is he? Keep your eyes closed. Try and
'Kay.
be. Try. It might be uncomfortable.
No, it's okay.
What's he doing? He's smiling. What's he
Mhm.
doing?
Probably laughing with friends, probably joking or
Try to remove the word probably. It's a block. It's like the word maybe. It doesn't allow you to really feel it. What's he
Mhm.
doing?
just laughing.
Yeah, he's having fun.
Hmm.
And now you, at your age, come along and start fucking wiping that smile off his face
Hmm.
by saying, he should have done this, should have done that, should have done this. How does he feel?
Bullied.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't feel very good. It's not smiling anymore, is he?
No.
He's like, he's only 12, man. He's only a kid. He doesn't fucking know. He's maybe even starting going through puberty right now. He doesn't know.
Mm.
Can you stop what you're saying and look at how much you've hurt him? And can you feel that for a second?
Yeah.
Where do you feel it in your body?
Right here.
Yeah.
Stomach for
Yeah.
people that are listening, not watching.
Yeah. So it's in your stomach, right? Is there anything in your throat?
Um, there was. I think I swallowed it.
Yeah, you swallowed it. You didn't let it come up. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I use humor to do that a
It's a
lot.
defense mechanism.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I used to do that all the time. Humor is a defense mechanism because if we make a joke about it, we don't actually have to feel it.
Yeah, and it gives me time to swallow it.
Yeah, and not feel, not enter the cave you don't want to enter.
Sorry, I'm gonna get back to it.
Yeah, and how we get back to it is you stopped saying horrible things to him, but he's still looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
What does he want to say to you? Why are you bullying me?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's the first thing I thought is why.
And whatever wants to come up, just let it come up.
I think because I want the best for you.
Yeah. Yeah, because you love him.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't feel love, does he?
No. No.
He feels scared and bullied.
Yeah, and uneasy now.
Yeah, and not
Like,
safe.
dude, why'd you touch me like that?
Yeah, he's not safe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Unsafe, uneasy, kind of timid now. Like side eye, like I gotta pay attention to this guy now.
Yeah, he doesn't trust you. And,
Yeah.
and you're him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that's actually weird because that's a feeling I feel a lot. Like this kind of like, is this person gonna fuck me up? Like, is this person gonna fuck me over?
Yeah, because you're fucking yourself over.
Right.
Every time you say horrible things to that beautiful little boy, he's only 12, he's having fun, he's got a smile on his face, he's playing with his friends. And all of a sudden, you walk in, the adult version of you. He's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
I want to wring your neck. I want to Bart Simpson you. He's probably like, what the fuck?
What a good image, hey?
No, it's not funny.
No, no, no.
That's the defense mechanism. You can see it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like the laugh is like the edge of the tears.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Can you give him a hug? Does he want you to give him a hug?
no.
Yeah. We're going to end it there for today. And the reason why is that you have to develop a relationship with him, just like you would anybody else. You're going to have to show up every day and be like, hey, man, I'm back.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be like, I don't want you to touch me.
Mm-hmm.
But you can just keep showing up. Keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up. And be like, hey, man, can I give you a hug? No. Okay, no worries. I'll come back tomorrow. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Feel it, dude. Feel it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm coming back and I'm gonna see you. And I'll be back tomorrow. And one day you're gonna ask him, hey man, can I give you a hug? Good for you, dude. Feel whatever you need to feel. You're a beautiful, strong human being and you're feeling what you're feeling. And eventually one day he's gonna say yes. And the battle changes. And now you have an ally. Another part of you that is incorporated into the whole. Another part of you that's like, can sense something when something's going sideways and be like, hey man. Because you love him and you got a relationship with him. But it's going to take time.
Yeah. It's hard. It's
not easy. And you watched yourself avoid it. You watched yourself laugh.
Oh yeah.
And then I commend you for that because some people can't sit in that discomfort. It's fucking really uncomfortable. They want to make a joke about it. They want to avoid and this feeling that is bubbling up inside you that feels like a dam that's about to burst. It's like, oh, can we just fucking do something else? It's like, no. It's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the weird thing is it's only physically uncomfortable when you're avoiding it.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, let me just push this fucking back
Let me
down.
swallow it back down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because like once I just kind of sat there and breathed, now I feel like I can talk again.
Yeah, and you let some tears out and you had an emotional release and it's like, it's not the whole thing because you just showed up for him
Yeah, yeah.
in a different way. You just showed up and you like saw him. You saw how much you hurt him. And he's like, hey, can I give you a hug? Probably fuck no, because I
Yeah.
don't trust you. I don't feel safe around you.
Don't fucking touch me.
Don't fucking touch me. You've been hurting me and fucking abusing me for years. So why would you fucking and that's the hard thing. That's the hard thing. We abuse parts of ourselves, and they're angry at us, and you have to feel the anger towards you,
Yeah.
and it's not fun. But if you keep showing up for yourself every single day, even if it's 10 minutes at the start of the day, be like, hey man, I'm back. How you doing? Fuck you, dude. No worries. I get it. I'm sorry. I'm really fucking sorry. I'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess yeah, it's a weird thing. It's like, how do I get this message across to you?
By loving him because he's fucking 12. He's not a man. He doesn't understand the things you understand. But you can teach him those things. Just like you have to father yourself first before you can father other people, in my opinion.
I should have had tissues here, man. What a bitch ass move.
We never know. We didn't know we are gonna get here, man. And I just commend you for getting there and allowing yourself to feel that. And we did a beautiful little inner child work there. Where that's what it is.
Yeah.
I do that with my clients.
I don't even cry on my own podcast. So
Yeah, man, you did an amazing job, and you were vulnerable. And like, who knows you doing that, and having people see you feel that. Dude, that gives people so much permission to potentially feel their own feelings.
yeah, I think it's easier as well when I'm just sitting, because like I said to you, when I feel like I'm on my own podcast, I'm thinking about other shit. When I'm
You're
once-
performing though. You're performing in a way because it's your
Yeah.
podcast. You got to answer questions. Like I'm the same way.
we got to think of questions. Whereas like when I'm even just going into this, I told you my main goal is just be present and honest,
Mm-hmm.
and
And you did it, and you showed up for that 12-year-old version of you today by visiting him, and you're putting brownie points in the bank with him.
maybe
100%.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
a maybe.
Yeah, I shouldn't say that.
100%. Not even shouldn't. There's the shame-based language again of like, oh, I shouldn't do that. I should do this. Like, no, you showed up for yourself, dude. And you were able to feel some stuck emotion that who knows how long it's be there. Because the goal in life, and we'll kind of end it here, the goal in life is not to be a dam, but it's to be a river. And we have to break down these dams that you touched on today. It's like a dam. It's like a dam of emotion. You maybe took out a brick today, and it's a
Yeah.
little one. Hey, man, can I hug you? No. Oh, shit. You're feeling.
Yeah,
You, you're feeling. That's the whole point of fucking life, is to feel. And you can't know the heights of joy until you know the depths of despair. And if you're avoiding the despair within yourself, then how are you expecting to feel so happy and peace and love
yeah.
if you won't go to those other parts of yourself?
Yeah, and it's weird how it's these like situations where like if you were to ask me, I wouldn't even have maybe thought of or remembered that a month ago. But it's weird how these like little situations where you're just like, it's like a split second where you just make it's like the four agreements. You know, you make an agreement with yourself. Like it's like, oh, this is the truth now, and that's how I operate.
Yep. And you can't deny it because you
But
just
then,
felt it.
yeah. But then you get so mad. You're like, dude, A, that's not the truth. And B, you didn't have to subscribe to that way of thinking. Like, you're the one that made. And then there's like this guilt trip of, you know, you did this to yourself. But I don't want to get back into.
No, because and that's the pattern. You can see how you're falling back into the pattern now of the abuse of the younger version of you. It's so easy because that's your default setting.
Yeah. No, it's not. That's the thing, is it's learned. That's what
exactly.
But then you get mad at that. You're
Yeah.
like, no, you actually did this to yourself. Like it's a loop, you know?
Yeah, like you learnt the learnt behavior, and then you made that your default setting when it's not your default setting, and then it creates this fucking chaos. When the way to feel, the way to heal is to feel. You got to feel. You got to do what you did today. That's the work. You do it most of the time alone, or you do it with a coach. Whatever you want to do it, you got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that there's certain ways you can do it by yourself. There's certain ways you can do it. I think both.
Yep.
Combination of both.
Many different ways, my friend.
Many ways to skin a dead cat.
Exactly.
Nice morbid finish there.
Love you guys. We'll see you next week. Go follow Mark. He's an amazing human being. You got to see he's an amazing human being. He is not scared of anything, including the parts of himself. Love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Love you. Thank you. Peace.